Welcome everybody to our 9 a.m. flow. So neck, shoulders, hips, all of my favorites this morning, and I think a lot of other people's as well. It's these problem areas. So if you've been doing my practices, you know I love to focus on the postural muscles to reverse our day-to-day life, our sitting, our hunching, our working at computers with these legs and hips sitting still all day, locking into place, tightening, tensing. So this is our flow this morning. So we'll come into our Shavasana, getting ourselves comfy. So I was mentioning earlier, I don't play music in these classes. So A, because of the microphone, doesn't sound as good coming through the microphone. And B, copyright as well. So if you've got music you'd like to play, you can play it along in the background of these flows. If you use Apple Music or Spotify, usually they've got the curated playlists that you can just type in yoga and they'll have many different options there. As well as we don't need any equipment this morning or ever for any of these classes, but we've got the option of using it for support, whether it's yoga blocks and props or just household items that we'd like to use, whether it's blankets or pillows. So easing ourselves down into our Shavasana, laying on our backs to get started this morning, to get started by stopping, by putting everything down, by resting our physical bodies, feeling it against the floor, just noticing the parts of ourselves in contact with our mats this morning. Taking a nice deep breath in, filling up the belly, and a long exhale to just see if we can sink more of ourselves into the floor, to release any tension holding us up in any way. Just like that candle wax melting down into the floor. Get rid of any unconscious binding, tightening, tensing of muscles that we may have. Use this moment of our practice to check in with how we are. We wake up a little different every morning. Maybe we slept funny. Maybe we've been sitting a lot this week. Maybe we've got little niggles or any injuries going on. Whether it's new or whether it's been around for a while, we just notice what's happening. What needs some special care this morning? Maybe we need a bit of neck, shoulders and hips. Maybe there's other areas that may need a little extra stretching and care this morning. Bring this awareness into our breath as we start to fill up, extending the breath, these inhales, nice deep down into the belly, spreading up to the chest, and releasing from the chest, down and out from the belly. Taking in this fresh oxygen, and letting out all that used air with each exhale. Nice long exhales, emptying the lungs to make room for this next breath. As we get this greater clarity for how we are this morning in our physical bodies, remembering that our practice, the suggestions that I make are just that, they're just suggestions. They're just a guide that we can modify our practice in any way that we see fit this morning. Letting go of our controlling mind of what we want to get out of our practice, what we're trying to achieve, or trying to push our body into certain shapes, and instead cultivating this listening mind of just allowing our body, the sensations, to guide our practice this morning. If anything doesn't feel quite right, even if it feels good to move in to begin with, if it no longer serves us, gently making our way out or taking rest whenever we may need it. A little wriggle through our fingers and toes. And we'll draw these knees into the chest, tucking into our ball, taking our squeeze, starting with these hips a gentle left and right, nice and soft. a speed of movement that we can really feel into what's going on, how the lower back is this morning. So if we're just swaying side to side unconsciously, bring that awareness in, feel which muscles are getting a little stretch here, where we're feeling restricted, where we're feeling any tightness. We'll keep the knees together and just starting to make small circles, growing them out. Maybe noticing if we've got one side of the hip is tighter than the other. Whether there's any tension in the lower back. It could be another product of sitting down for a lot of our week and changing directions on these circles. And coming into happy baby, soles of the feet to the sky, knees drawing down towards the mat. Resting the head and shoulders. Keeping this nice fluid breath and just emptying the mind of any activity, any chatter that we've got going on. One way we can do this is just to cultivate that listening, to check in this happy baby, noticing where we feel the stretch. Where is it most effective? Which muscle groups are feeling this sensation of stretch? And on our exhales, are we able to relax a little further into it? Maybe either getting further depth in the stretch, or perhaps just being more at ease in the posture with the hold that we've taken. Let's take the soles of the feet to touch. Tucking the chin in towards the chest, keeping the shoulders relaxed, the head and the feet drawing in towards one another. And then releasing the left leg nice and long, taking a half happy baby, just this right side, this right hand taking hold of the right foot. That right knee lowering down. Keeping this left leg long, so we're getting this opening across the hips. And then bending the left knee, taking this right foot across, our thread the needle, our right arm threads through, interlace the fingers, resting the head and shoulders to the floor as we draw this left leg to chest. If we're really tight through the hips and we struggle to rest that head down, grab a pillow or a towel rolled up, something to rest under the head so that we're not engaging through the neck to keep that head up in any way. And then releasing here. We're going to lengthen that left leg nice and long, keeping this right knee bent towards the chest, coming across the body into our supine twist as we extend this right arm out, gazing over the fingertips, keeping this upper back pressed to floor. So getting this nice long twist from head to toe. If it's comfy for the neck, gazing out over those right fingertips. Feeling it across the hips, this right side of our lower back. We're not trying to force anything, but just finding that sweet spot where we're getting this opening through the upper body, so using those inhales, widening through the collarbones. As we exhale, just feeling that further little deepening through the hips. Again, we're not pushing it down. The body will give us a little bit more space to work with. Let's return our way back through center. Both knees in towards the chest, squeezing in nice and tight, taking the soles of the feet to touch, knees coming out, chin to chest, drawing the head, the feet a little bit closer towards each other. then releasing that right leg nice and long. Half happy baby on this left side this time. How's our breath? So we're extending through that right heel. Keeping that sole of our left foot open. And maybe that knee deepens a little further on an exhale. And bending the right knee, bringing this left foot across, thread the needle. Left arm through. Taking hold either around the knee, the shin, or the hamstring if that's more available, more accessible. So that we can rest this upper body down. So the arms, the shoulders are working to draw this right leg in. But we're not letting that tension spread to the facial muscles. If there's any grimacing or tensing here, just softening out. At ease through the muscles of the face, the jaw, and the tongue. Let's release here, lengthening that right leg long, that left knee stays tucked to chest, bringing it across the body as we extend out through that left arm, taking our nice open twist. Use those inhales to open this upper body. So as we take the breath deep to the belly, feel it expand up, widening through the collarbones at the top. Exhale, softening through the shoulders, the shoulder blades, the back of the body. And let's make our way back to center, drawing those knees to chest. Rock and roll up to seated. And allowing ourselves to sit nice and tall. Take that first inhale, lengthen up through the vertebra of the spine. We'll take our next inhale for this left arm to come up and over into our side neck. This right arm can rest in the lap against the leg, or we can extend it out, maybe furthering that stretch if it feels good. So we're gentle here, we're not trying to force the head across. Just gently leaning into it, feeling that lengthening down that right side. Keep using those inhales as a way to open up through the front of the body. It'll keep us from hunching forwards. On the exhales, feeling the knees just soften towards the floor, so loosening up around the hips, relaxing through the thighs. So the neck, the shoulders, typical problem area for office workers, desk workers. And let's release up this side. So we're going to turn our gaze, we're looking past the armpit to the floor, so that we're moving this focus into the muscles down the back of the neck. This time that chin tucks in towards the chest. We can keep this arm outstretched or relax to the lap. We're feeling these shoulder blades deepen, so working through the upper traps, attaching. If we can feel the shoulder blades loosen down, we create that extra little bit of length through the muscle. Let's release our way out here. Inhale that right arm up and over, taking our side neck. Lift a little taller through the torso, so we're sitting up nice and long through the spine. If we'd like to, we can extend that arm out. Keeping these big belly breaths. Let's release this side, coming nice and tall, turning that gaze, tuck of the chin. Feeling the back of the body soften. And releasing out this side. We're going to take a shoulder stretch. We've got our options. Actually, we'll take, first one we'll inhale this left arm up and over, taking the hand to the shoulder. This right hand can either come to the elbow, or so taking the elbow, coming into our shoulder stretch, moving into our triceps, the back of the arm as well. Or if we'd like to, we can turn this hand, thumb facing down, interlacing the fingers behind the back, keeping this front of the body nice and open. So interlacing the fingers, or if we can't quite reach, maybe taking hold of the singlet or shirt and walking those hands in a little closer towards each other. Just check in with the shoulders. If we're nice and tight, it can be a bit of an intense stretch here. We'll also probably have one side that's a little bit tighter than the other one. I think this is my better side. If it feels okay, we can gently walk these hands in towards each other a little further. And releasing out this side, we're going to take our left arm across the body, using this right arm to draw it in, feeling the stretch across the front of the shoulder. Take this time again to check in that we're sitting nice and tall, that we're reversing any slouching that we tend to do. So we're lifting through the crown of the head. And releasing this side, inhaling, right arm up and over. We can either take this hand to elbow, drawing into our stretch this way, or down, around, interlace. Yep, this is my tighter side. So taking hold where it's available. So we've always got these differences in symmetry between one side to the other. So it's important just to work with wherever each side is. We're not trying to even it up. We're not trying to push one side to match the other. We're finding that sweet spot, that edge for each side, that point that serves each side the best. Keeping this attitude of self-care. Let's release this side out, taking our right arm across, left arm draws it in. So feeling the stretch across the front of our right shoulder now. Deep breath in to lift. Exhale, feeling those shoulders soften. And releasing out this side. We're going to take another shoulder stretch. So we've got our option to remain cross-legged, if that's more comfortable, which it can be our next stretch. So I'll explain this better. So we're going to come into our shoulder stretch, but we're going to take an optional little hip stretch here. So if it feels okay to do so, we can slide this left foot over towards the right side of our hip, this right foot coming over to the left side to stack the legs here, keeping both sit bones grounded to the floor. We're going to rise the hands up towards the sky, taking our right hand down and around, taking our wrap of the arm. So we can either have the backs of the hands touching if that's more comfortable. If it's available, placing the fingers of the right hand, into the left. So from here, with our eagle wrap of our arms, we're rising through the fingertips. So getting this stretch along the back of the shoulders or the top of our upper back. And then if it's comfy, we can continue to lift through the fingertips and folding forwards, deepening into our stretch through the hips a little if we've taken this cross of the legs. So keep those sit bones grounded. We're not lifting the hips up off the floor to fold forward. You get this gentle lengthening of the lower back as well. Just continuing to reach up through the fingertips, opening up through the shoulders slightly. And let's return our way back to sitting nice and tall. We'll release these arms. If we're cross-legged, we can swap sides. If we're taking our wrap of the legs, taking this right foot over this time, left foot around. So we're taking this stack. I'm a little bit tighter on this side, but we're inhaling, arms to rise. Exhaling, can't remember what side we did. Was it this one? No, that looks the same as one. Opposite side to whatever we did. I've got to remember what that feels about right. All right, so we're lifting up through the fingertips, getting that lengthening across the upper back. And again, option to take our fold forwards. I'm all sorts of tongue-tied this morning. I didn't have a great sleep, so I'm a bit brain dead. Serves me right for having an afternoon nap yesterday. Throws out my sleep schedule. So continuing to lengthen through the fingertips. It was a very good nap though. And then when we're ready, making our way back up nice and tall, releasing the arms gently, uncrossing the legs if we've taken that option. We'll spin around into our tabletop position. So sweeping those legs out to the side, coming to our tabletop, our cat-cow, making sure these fingers are spread nice and wide. Press those palms into the floor. On an inhale, we're going to drop the tummy towards the mat as we open through the heart. And as we exhale, pressing through the arms, rounding through the spine. This is our flow. We inhale, opening through the front of the body, keeping those shoulders relaxed. Exhale, tucking that tailbone under, chin towards the chest, really round, lengthen the back of the body, and just keep moving with our breath here. So we're opening up through the vertebra, creating this mobility. So the neck, shoulders, if that's a problem area, chances are we're getting this tightness through the upper back of this hunching of the upper back as well as compression through the lower back. If seating is our game, sedentary lifestyle, we really just want to gently bring this mobility back through the vertebra. So still moving gently, it's just a loosening of these muscles. And then coming back to our neutral spine, we'll get a little bit more movement through here. We're going to take our hips back to the heels, so towards our child's pose. We're going to flow, keeping this chest low to the ground, draw it forwards, coming into our back bend, so either our cobra or our upward facing dog. And on our exhale, taking these hips back to heels, lengthening down that lower back. So keeping low, inhale, chest forwards, keep those elbows in nice and tight. Pressing into our back bend, lift through the crown of the head. Exhale, hips back to heel. I am very tongue-tied this morning. All right, inhale, draw it forwards. Moving with the breath, it's a deep inhale, full inhale to open. Nice long exhale to lengthen back. One more time, flowing through. We're going to hold our next back bend. So use one more in-breath to come forwards. So up dog or cobra. So really focusing on lifting through the crown of the head. If we're feeling hunched and the shoulders are up near the ears, lengthen, lift nice and tall. And then tucking our toes under, coming into our downward facing dog. With a little pedal out here. So lengthening through the backs of the legs, lifting through those sit bones so the chest draws towards the thighs. Getting that nice inverted V shape. Let's walk these feet to the front of our mat. Taking our ragdoll here. So folding forwards over the hips, relaxing through this upper body, taking the hands to opposite elbows, our sway side to side. Back to center, releasing those fingertips to floor. Inhale, a half lift. So we're lengthening through the spine now. Exhale, fold it forwards, bend the knees, and we're going to slowly uncurl our way to standing, stacking the vertebra as we come tall. At the top, we'll add a shrug of the shoulders, releasing those fingers wide into our Tadasana. Check our posture. We're lifting tall through the crown, gentle tuck of the chin. Notice if we've got a dip in the hips. So like our seesaw, we're bringing the front of the hips up, tucking that, grounding that tailbone under. Inhale, hands rise. As we exhale, we'll fold forwards, keeping this chest open. Inhale, a half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees, ground those feet as we inhale, pressing our way up, reaching through the fingertips. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold forwards. One more time. Inhale, lift tall. We're going to add a back bend this time on our exhale. We're opening through the heart, engaging through the glutes and the hips as we inhale, rise forwards. Exhale, fold. Half lift. High plank, stepping back. All right, we're engaging this core. So our posture is the same, but we're in this prone position. So check in with those hips in our high plank. If they're dipping or tilting, tuck that tailbone under, hug the belly button in towards the spine. It'll engage the core. We're still long through the crown of the head and the heels. Take a breath in. Exhale, chaturanga, lowering down. As we inhale, taking our back bend, up dog or cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. We're going to gaze forwards, bend the knees, step or hop the feet to the front of our mats. In breath for our half lift. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees, inhale, root to rise. Adding our back bend on our exhale. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold it forwards. Half lift. This time taking our hands to mat, we're going to step our right foot just halfway back, our foot on a 45-degree angle. Taking our hamstring fold. So we can either keep the hands framed by the foot, we can take them to rest on that front thigh. if that feels good. If we'd like to add a little back bend, maybe interlacing the fingers, opening through the heart and folding over this left leg. But getting into our hips and hammies now. So this front leg can either be straight or bent as much as we'd like. We're grounding through that outer edge of our right foot, so noticing if we're sort of peeling or folding in on the arch of the foot. See if we can ground through that outer edge. Engaging through that core, we're slowly going to make our way standing upright. We're going to turn our feet parallel to the mat. I'm going to do a little shimmy here to face the camera, but we're taking a wider stance with the foot, so taking that right foot all the way back. Take a breath in, we'll take our hands to the hips as we exhale, folding forward. So we're taking this wide leg forward fold now. Taking those hands to mat for support. We can widen our stance here as much as we'd like. We're getting this opening through the inner thighs, our adductors. Taking this fold, relaxing our upper body down to the mat, towards the mat. So just taking that fold to a spot that feels good for us. So anyone hasn't followed my videos, so I just have to watch my blood pressure so I don't drop my head below my heart for too long. So if you are in this position, taking that fold to just the degree that feels good, we can let that upper body relax down. And then pressing back up through the hands. We'll take these hands to the hips, keep that core engaged. Inhale, standing our way tall. We're going to step this right foot to the front of our mat. So back into our standing position. We'll inhale, hands rise. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands to mat, stepping our left foot back this time, 45 degrees, so it's a half step. We can take a breath in to half lift here. And an exhale to fold forwards. Again, our options to either frame the foot, to rest hands to thighs. If we'd like to open up through that hard little, taking our bind, keeping those shoulders, relax back, and perhaps taking an extra little fold over that front leg. So options, 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 modify, modify, modify. And try to make my practice, or try to emphasize in my practice, this importance of modifications, that you're not just following along and doing whatever is said in any class, not just mine. It's important to cultivate this listening to what's going on in our own bodies and what's going to be best for us. When we're ready, gently making our way up to standing, we're going to turn our toes to the outside of the mat. We can widen our stance here, taking those hands to hip, taking our breath in. Exhale, forward fold. Again, option to take these hands down to the mat. We can play with that width of our stance as much as we like, perhaps walking our hands, palms back in line with the heels, or this time if we'd like to, we can walk them over to one side, taking our fold to focus over one particular leg. And if if we've done that, we can go over to our opposite side. And returning back through center. Let's take those hands to hips, engage the core, tummy tucked in nice and tight as we inhale, pressing through the pads of the feet nice and tall, stepping that left foot to the front of our mat. Let's inhale, hands rise. Exhale, folding forwards. Half lift. Hands to mat, high plank, stepping or hopping back. Toes or knees, take that breath in. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. All right, from here, let's lower our knees down to the mat, coming into our tabletop position. We'll come back into the shoulders here. We're going to take our right hand out over in front of the left, a breath in at the top. As we exhale, lowering these hips to heel. So we're getting down into this side body, this right side, our lats. So if we've got tight lats, you can move up to bring that tension into the shoulder. It's a good one to stretch out, maybe we don't do a lot of. It's one of my favorites. I used to swim when I was in school, and so I always feel this right in that right side lat, but you may feel it up closer, further towards the shoulder. You may feel it down towards the hip. And even as you move this hand position, if you'd like to walk a little further, maybe deepen the stretch or moving that sensation along the side of the body, just noticing where we feel it. And then releasing our way back to tabletop. We're going to sweep this right arm up, opening the chest, reaching through the fingertips as we exhale, sliding that arm through, reaching through the fingertips, lowering that right shoulder to the mat. We can rest the head, support with that left arm, or if we'd like to take a little further twist, a half bind, this left hand coming over towards that right side crease. So we're getting this stretch through that right shoulder. And then returning this left hand to the mat, using it to press our way back up to tabletop. We're going to take this left hand, this time out over in front of our right, our breath in at the top. Use that full length of our exhale as we lower those hips towards the heels. So we're feeling that stretch come along that left side of the body. And positioning in ourselves in a way that feels good here, that we can know that we can walk this hand further over. We can lean in through the torso to deepen a little bit as well. Use the breath, specifically that exhale, to get a little more comfortable here. Let's come back up to all fours. We'll use that left hand sweeping tall, opening through this upper chest as we exhale, reaching across, lowering ourselves down, that shoulder to mat. Option to bring this right hand around the left side of our hip, relaxing into the stretch. Let's return this right hand back to the mat, pressing our way up to all fours. We're going to step our left foot outside our left hand, coming into our lizard pose, our lizard lunge. So we can either keep this knee to the mat, or if we like, we can tuck our toes under, elevate through the knee, and maybe taking a little pulse here, forwards and backwards. If we kept that knee to the mat, just stationary, deepening down through the torso. We can have palms or forearms to the mat. My hips are quite tight. So if you've got a bolster or a pillow, if you're similar, and you're sort of that space between, if palms are really comfortable but elbows is just that little bit too far, if you've got a pillow there for support, it's a good one to use. Like to get into the hip flexor a little further. If we've got this right knee to the mat, we can bring this left hand around, taking hold of the foot, drawing that heel toward the hip. So getting into these hips now. Noticing if we're resisting the stretch in any way, we've got that reaction to tense up, especially if we're quite tight here. So use that breath if we are, just softening a little, easing out that tension, that resistance through the hips, through that hip flexor. And then releasing that back foot to the mat. If we've taken hold, we're going to swap sides, taking our lizard on that right side, taking that right foot outside the right hand. So starting here, we can keep that knee to mat, or we can elevate, option if we'd like to, adding that pulse, or just deepening down through that upper body. Option if we'd like to take into that hip flexor, that right hand to left foot. Releasing here, making our way into child's pose. Hips back to heels, softening down, letting these hips relax completely. Coming back to this breath. We're going to make our way into our pigeon pose. We'll come into our downward facing dog. If you'd like to flow through a vinyasa, you can. If you'd like to come straight into downward facing dog, you can. Just check in. It's yogi's choice, whatever we're feeling more this morning. But we're coming back to meet in this downward dog. We'll inhale this left heel to sky, and bringing that left foot towards the right wrist as we make our way into pigeon. Keeping this right leg extended out, making our way down to just relax here, to be at rest through the hips, through the upper body. If there's that mental chatter, just letting it come and go without being too distracted by it or caught up in it. And just staying here with what's going on in the posture. And what's going on in the breath. And again, we're going to make our way into downward facing dog. Yogi's choice. If you'd like to take that flow again, you can, stepping back to high plank. Otherwise, coming directly back into our down dog, or whatever other way we'd like to get there, however we'd like to move through. Once we're back in this downward dog, we'll inhale that right heel to sky. Coming into pigeon on our opposite side. Taking our time here. So keeping these hips square as we soften our way through the upper body to our mats. Any little movements we need to get comfortable so that we can be completely at ease. This time, as we press our way out, we're going to lower our right side hip to the floor to sweep both these legs around to the front of our mat. We can extend these legs nice and long, drawing our toes back in towards the chest. We'll inhale, rising up through the hands. As we exhale, taking a fold forwards, and letting those hands rest or take hold. Now we can bend these knees as much as we'd like, especially if we're stiff through that lower back. We're drawing that belly button towards the thighs. releasing our way back up to sit nice and tall. There's one more I want to get through, another hip opener. We're going to sweep our feet back to the side. We'll come back to our tabletop position. I want to throw in a frog pose this morning. So coming to all fours, turning the arches of the feet towards the mat, keeping the heels just outside the knees and making our width of our legs to that comfortably uncomfortable position. We can rest to the forearms. So just check in with this hip opening. If at any time we need to come out, it can be quite intense. This is my love to hate pose, our frog pose. We can gently ease the hips towards the heels if we'd like to deepen. Remembering we can come out at any time as well. It gets this really quite intense stretch through the inner thighs, the groin here. When we're ready, bringing ourselves out softly. Knees coming in towards each other. We'll sweep these feet back to the front of our mats. Coming into our seated position, we'll take our Navasana, our boat pose, lengthening out through the arms, through the fingertips. We can bring these feet off the mat, opening through the heart, engaging through the core as we slowly lower our heels and head to the floor. Coming down to rest, we'll draw the heels in towards the hips, keeping the knees together. Our single windscreen wiper blade, side to side, this rocking left and right. This last little loosening of the hips as we relax through this lower back. Beautiful. Coming back through center into our Supta Baddha Konasana, keeping the soles of the feet to touch, the knees to open out. Last little hip opener. If there's anything else that we'd like, if there's anything that feels good for our body before we take our final Shavasana. We've got a minute or so to do that now. And then bringing our knees back together, taking our final Shavasana as we lengthen out the arms and legs. And take a little scan from head to toe. Any last little bits of tension that we can let go of. If we can deepen a little further into our mats, allowing this body to relax a little further. Getting ourselves comfortable. And take these last few minutes turning inwards and taking this rest. awareness back into the breath. Full deep inhales. Full long exhales. Feeling this final relaxation spread through the body as we wriggle through the fingers and toes. On an in-breath, reaching, extending the arms up overhead, taking a long, full body stretch, lengthening out and rolling to one side. So make our way up to seated. And taking that first moment, that first breath in to sit tall, taking hands to heart center, and check in with the head, the neck, the shoulders, down through the hips, how we're feeling after this morning's practice, as well as that mental activity, that sense of calm that we bring to both the mind and the body. Grateful that we've taken this time to come to our mats and to practice this self-care. As we bow our heads to our hands, we honour ourselves and each other with Namaste. Thank you very much, everybody.